Okay, while you're getting signed in there, guys, just gonna remind those of you who were here the day before Christmas and tell all the rest of you what we did in terms of starting this activity. Okay? In order to do that, we have to review a few of the things we did the day before that. All right? Those would be the 4 components of climate. Okay? The 4 components of climate are temperature, precipitation, light, and wind. Okay? Then that same day, we went over the factors that affect climate. That is, the things that are in an area that make temperature the way it is, precipitation the way it is, light the way it is, and wind the way it is for that particular location. Okay? The factors that affect climate that we went over are latitude, okay? So how far you are from the Earth's equator, okay, is going to affect things like light, okay, how intense your light is, how much of it you get, okay, if it changes very much throughout the year, okay. Latitude affects you no matter where you are, okay. So if you're close to the equator, it makes it warmer for you. If you're far from the equator, it makes it colder for you, okay. All of those things are true no matter where you are. Second factor that affects climate, altitude. Okay, we learned that for every 1,000 meters above sea level you go, it gets about 6 degrees colder. Okay, so a place like, Calgary is going to be considerably colder than a place that is around the same latitude, but is lower in altitude. Okay, we're just actually 1,096 meters right here above sea level. Okay, that means we are 1 vertical kilometer higher than Vancouver. Okay. Another factor affecting climate, okay, would be the presence of mountain barriers. Okay, how close you are to a set of mountains can influence how much precipitation you get. Okay, for us, we're on the rain shadow, okay, or leeward side of the Rocky Mountains. Most of the precipitation falls on the windward side. That would be BC. Okay, most of the precipitation falls there, and when it gets up and over the mountains, it's already all gone. So it's dry on this side. Plus, that's also what makes Chinooks happen. Okay, things like that. Other things that can affect your climate, they could be things like centers of high and low pressure. Okay, proximity to an ocean. Okay, the ocean can really regulate your temperature because the ocean is huge and can absorb and give off large amounts of energy without changing its temperature very much. It's the main reason why Vancouver's climate is considerably different than Calgary's, okay, because the ocean is there and regulates its climate. Okay, patterns of prevailing winds, okay, are also something that affects your climate. For us, most of the time, okay, the wind is out of the southwest. But a few days ago, it changed, and it came out of the northeast, where nothing good weather-wise ever comes from. Okay, and it has brought in all that snow, and now the polar vortex, and all of that fun stuff that we'll be enjoying for the next week or so. Okay, is that ringing a bell for everybody? Mm-hmm. Okay, so what this activity is about is integrating those things that we learned. Okay, the factors that affect climate mostly, and how they affect the climate of certain Canadian cities. Okay, so the purpose of this activity is to group cities that have similar climate graphs. All right, so we saw, okay, that in your activity there, you've got a whole bunch of climate graphs. Okay, and the first task was to simply look at the graphs and put ones that were similar into groups. Okay, and we said you should have somewhere between 5 and 7 different distinct climate groups, okay, when you're done that. All right, so if we're looking at this, okay, if I look at Halifax International Airport, I can see that, the rainfall kind of lowers in the summer, goes up in the winter, okay? The temperature goes anywhere from around -6 to +16, okay? The precipitation highest is about 165, 170 millimeters, okay? Lowest is about 100, okay? But if I'm just generally looking at climate graph shape, I would say that St. John's and Halifax have very similar climates. Could I be fair in saying that they should probably go in a group together? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Just looking at not only just the shape, because you got to look at the scale. Okay. But looking at the numbers here, yeah, we're looking. So this was 170. This one's 160 for the maximum. That's close enough. I mean, it's a difference of this much. okay? But they generally follow the same pattern. Temperature follows the same pattern, same numbers, okay? They should probably go in a group together, all right? And I would say that even Charlottetown could probably go in that group as well, okay? And is it an accident that they're all kind of in a similar geographic location? No, it's not an accident, okay? And you might find maybe some other cities that belong in that group. Now, does Prince Rupert belong in that group? Shape is similar.
Different scale.
Different scale, much different scale. Prince Rupert is the wettest place in Canada, okay? 380 millimeters of rain. That's like the whole year for here, right? So, well, not it's big, okay? That's 1 month, right? So, while the shape of the bars is similar, the scale of the bars is completely different, okay? And if we're looking at the temperature, it's also considerably more mild. It never gets below freezing, okay? Whereas the other ones did. So, Prince Rupert shouldn't go in that group, so I put it by itself and then see if any of my other climate graphs would belong in that group. Everybody follow what we're looking for? Okay, once you group them, and just by their shape, okay, then what you want to do is look at, okay, what does every city I put in this group have in common in terms of the factors that affect climate? Okay, we already said that those first three are all maritime locations, so they're all pretty close to sea level. That would be which factor? That's a component. Which factor?
Ocean pressure.
Okay, proximity to the oceans. What's another one? They're all at sea level. Altitude. Okay, that's what you're looking for. What are some climate factors that these groups have in common? Okay, so you write those down. You say, okay, this group is most affected by these factors. And then you tell me that these factors make the climate like this. And you talk about temperature, precipitation, light, and humidity. Okay, everybody follow? So you're basically going to have these groups, and then you're going to talk about each group. Here are the factors that affect this group. Here's how they affect this group. Make sense? And then give those groups some, accurate names. Like that could be the Atlantic group or the Maritime group or something like that. And then maybe you have a group of prairie cities or a group of northern cities, whatever. Okay, you call those groups whatever you want. Question?
No, that wasn't.
That was it? Okay. Yeah, so you give them a name. All right, and then for the analysis part here, okay, so that's the first part of the analysis. So in order to do that, you'll have to pull out probably Google Maps or Google Earth for some of those cities, because you probably don't know where, Inuvik is, or there's some ones you've probably never heard of in that group. Like maybe you don't know where Prince Rupert is, or you probably know where Regina, Whitehorse, and then there's even more here. So you got Iqaluit. You probably know where Calgary is. Just Churchill, maybe you don't know necessarily where Churchill is. Okay. What's that?
It's in Manitoba.
Yes, but I don't know where in Manitoba. Like I couldn't put my finger on it on a map, right? Like if it's close to the Hudson Bay, that's different than if it's on the western border. Right? And then you got like Hopedale, Inukjuk, which is spelt like 4 different ways. There's like the French spelling, the Inuit spelling. There's a whole bunch of different ways. A Métis spelling, I think. So there's a whole bunch of different ones here, okay, for you to group together, okay? Make sure I couldn't find them all on the same scale, so you do have to look at the scales. And for these weird ones here with the green bars, they have 3 temperature lines, the low, the average, and the high. I would just go with the middle purple line, okay, as your temperature guide. I mean, they all have generally the same shape, but that's going to be your daily average. All right. Okay, so that's question number 1, grouping the cities together, okay, and then telling me, okay, what are the factors that affect the climate? Why does it make it that way? Question number 2 is, okay, here's a few more cities. Okay, look them up on a map and tell me which group they should go in based on where they are. Okay, do they have similar factors to this group? Okay, do they have similar factors to that group? All right, everybody follow me there? Okay, so that's what we're looking for, okay? And a bit of an explanation, okay? Why does Dawson go in a group with these 3 cities? Well, it's because it's really far from the equator and blah, blah, blah. Okay? Everybody good with that? Okay, got like a whole class today to work on that. Okay, I made it due on the 12th, so that's a ways from now. But hopefully you should get a lot of it done today, especially if you were here on the last day of the semester, because people got, I think, into it pretty good that day. Okay, so into groups, guys. Definitely do this in groups. You don't want to do this by yourself. It's a lot of work for one person.